Welcome, folks. Today, I want to share with you just a different thought based on the Chumash and Rashi that we've learned. Share with you the screen. So this is in the discussion between Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and Hashem, with God, after the sin of the spies, and that the Jewish people didn't have faith in God that he's going to overcome the Canaanites when they would enter into the land after the spies came back with a report of giving conclusions based on the report. They were only asked for a report that would give the facts, but not the conclusions. So God says, I'm going to destroy the people. I'll start from you. And Moshe responds to that, says, let's go. He responds, well, then what's going to happen is if you kill this nation like one man, meaning like at one time with a plague, all at once, the nations who have heard about your reputation will say as follows. Yeah, and here he says, but the Egyptians will hear that you brought one nation out of the midst of with great power, and you were there for them in the desert. Then all of a sudden you killed them. The nations are going to hear this, right? That and what is it? That obviously you weren't able to bring them into the land. Therefore, God, you're slow to anger, abundantly kind, forgive, and forgive iniquity of the nation according to your loving kindness, as you born these people that came out of Egypt. And God says, I forgive them in accordance to your word. But then God is forgiving, but doesn't allow them to enter the land. Right? Only Kalev and Yeshua, they could enter the land. But not the rest of the Jews, which will continue today in that in today's teachings. This is yesterday's teachings. Says, well, they've already tested me 10 times. And these are the 10 times. Rashi says over here, twice on the Red Sea, twice the manna, and twice with the quails, as stated in the Tractate of Erechin. And he only brings 6 of the 10. And he actually skips twice by the water. The Red Sea means when they cross the sea. The manna means manna from heaven. And twice with the quails, they tested me. So a couple of questions over here. Well, one is over here in this Rashi. Why is he skipped twice by the sea, which was the second thing? Not twice by the water. In other words, they complain about water, right? Why is that skipped? Why these six specifically are mentioned, not all 10. Furthermore, Moshe's response to God is when he wants to destroy the Jewish people for their sin of the spies, is to wipe them all out and start from him. And his response is, well, what's the Egyptians, the nations, the world going to say about this? But God, you couldn't take them out of Egypt. I mean, you could take them out of Egypt and beat them in the desert, but obviously you couldn't take care of them and bring them into the land. You didn't have the capability. That's what they're going to say. Is that our concern? And even if that's a concern, isn't that a secondary concern? Isn't the primary concern that, why are you going to wipe out the people for this? Be slow to anger. Have compassion. Be kind. And when God says, that, okay, I am being forgiving, it's because of the Egyptians and not because of for their sake. How do we understand that? Hope these questions are clear. So we'll understand it by over here. It says, have tested me. This should be understood literally. What does that mean? Why literally? As opposed to what? Because the word v'inasu in other instances sometimes means v'achisu, that they angered me. And here Rashi say, take it literally. What does that mean? It means as follows. What God's problem with the Jews at this point is, you've tested me 10 times. 6, as Rashi mentions, are tests that were open miracles, splitting the sea, manna from heaven, the quail. They're open miracles, and yet in the miracle, you question me. Means you had lack of faith. And it's happened 10 times. You're not fitting. You've tested the limits. You've gone to the limits. And even though I'm forgiving, I won't destroy you. But the reason I'm not going to destroy you is actually, as Moshe's, right, his understanding of things, and therefore why he brings, why he says, what are the Egyptians going to think, and what are the nations of the world going to think that you didn't have the capability? Oh, so what? God's not going to look good? No, that was not the issue. The issue is that if these people don't have the capacity to recognize me, which means they can't go into the land. Since going into the land will entail miracles of God. So you need to have trust in God, faith in God. They don't have it. Even when there's an open miracle, they question me. So they're going to need miracles to go into the land. They're not going to be able to, they're not going to come through. They've already tested 10 times this. And here he brings the 6 examples of where they're open. The story with water wasn't an open miracle. They tested God, but it wasn't an open miracle. It was they needed water. They didn't have water. So that's like a miracle's happening and you still question. Manna is coming from heaven and you're saying to God, well, we don't like the taste of it. Heavenly food? Where's that ever happened before? Splitting the sea, where that ever happened before? And you're questioning? Right? The quail, they said that they had meat, but, it wasn't enough. So like, God provided for them already. And now they're questioning. Goyach. Obviously, they're not fit because they're lacking in faith. So this is what Moshe then responds to God. He understands that the people still need forgiveness, but forgiveness doesn't mean that they're going to be able to fulfill the mandate that was put upon them. That they lost. They tested me. They didn't anger me. They tested with their faith. That's what it means. Rashi says, understood literally, as opposed to they just angered me, right? Because they were yeah, they tested my faith. So they're not fitting. Moshe Rabbeinu Moses understands this. Therefore, he says, it's their faith that they're lacking. Well, what's going to happen if you're not going to take them, if you're going to kill them all at once, right? That was the issue. It wasn't about that they won't die out. And you're going to kill them all at once. So what you're going to do is now bring a lack of faith to the nations of the world, because they're also not going to have faith in you. Here they see you took these people out of the land of Egypt. Oh, you did miracles there. That brought faith to the nations of the world. You took care of the Jews in a desert, right? You're the clouds of glory. You're with them, upon them. You're with them. Then all of a sudden, they're gone. Why are they gone? They're not going to think it's because they did a sin. What are the nations going to think? Because you don't have the capability to bring them into the land of Canaan. To take them out of Egypt is one thing, but into Canaan, where they're so mighty, much more mighty than they were in Egypt, you didn't have that capability. So you're going to bring, as a result of killing them off as one man, right? That's what Moshe says, as one man, meaning at one time, you're going to bring a lack of faith to the nations of the world. So you're going to accomplish the opposite of what you want to accomplish, what they are, what the Jews have lacked in. You're going to bring greater lack now to the nations of the world, which will be the opposite of what you want to accomplish. So don't do it. So God says, okay, I'm forgiving based on what you said, right? But I'm not forgetting that they're not capable. They're not the ones who are, they're not the ones who are going to be able to go into the land, because it's going to necessitate open miracles. And we see here these 10 times, 6 that Rashi brings the example of open miracles, and yet they question. So they're not the people who could do the job. So therefore, they're going to have to die out in the desert. And as we're going to learn today, over the 40 years. What a powerful teachings. So Rebbe says, from here we have to learn that we have to see the open miracles in our lives. They should bring us to greater faith in God, greater trust in Him. We'll see the open miracles that are happening in our lives. That will be a vehicle to bring the ultimate miracle of Mashiach now. Thank you, folks.